detailing, such as emblazoned wooden doors and leaded glass windows, add a certain baronial flair. Upstairs is the Great Hall, a big room that looks like a Hollywood version of something called the Great Hall, down to its vaulted ceiling and magnificent 16th century Elizabethan fireplace, suitable for smashing plates and glassware against. The building comes complete with a maintenance staff to clean it up. The walls along a winding staircase are covered with framed covers of H.L. projects, dating back to the founding of the organization, publication by 7 undergraduates in 1876. It's not clear whether the Harvard Lampoon is a social club or a humor magazine, observed Michael Frith, an H.L. veteran and later creative director of the Muppets. At different points in its history, it's been one or the other, and sometimes both. Most likely, it's neither very successfully, and probably a combination of the two. The organization has a number of quaint traditions, including weekly formal dinners that may involve the aforementioned smashing of plates and glassware. Most of the rest involve practical jokes. H.L. President George Plimpton, 48, for example, distinguished himself by putting a goat into Widener, the Harvard undergraduate library. One of the H.L.'s most daring pranks was inspired by an editorial written for its 1936 parody of wholesome general interest magazine, The Saturday Evening Post, which fulminated, "Some morning we may wake up to find a communist flag waving from the staff of our greatest public buildings." Sure enough, shortly thereafter, the Soviet hammer and sickle was discovered at dawn, billowing from the flagpole of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., with a copy of the H.L. left near the scene of the crime, like the mark of Zorro. This led the court's security chief to huff, "The Supreme Court of the United States is no place for Harvard socialists to have fun." Another cherished tradition is annoying the Crimson, the well-respected Harvard student newspaper, usually by publishing at least one Crimson parody annually. Crimson staffers would invariably retaliate by stealing the ibis, but the institution was at a distinct disadvantage. The Crimson couldn't decide whether to get into the feud or remain above it, recalled puny Peter Gable, 68, because they were a serious organization of political expression and ideas, whereas we were a bunch of assholes. H.L. membership hovered around 40 or 50, although the number of those actually involved in putting out the magazine was usually fewer than 10. A student could attempt to join as a writer or, if not creatively inclined, as part of the business board. Admission to the editorial board was either by writing sample or by good social connections to existing editors. Early 20th century H.L. members included New Yorker humorist Robert Benchley, the philosopher George Santayana, and journalist John Reed, who salvaged, legend has it, the brassware that adorns the Great Hall's mantel from the 1917 storming of the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg during the Russian Revolution. Ostensibly, the H.L. produced its own publication 5 times a year and, from 1917 until World War II, put out an additional magazine parody virtually every year. But by the time Michael Frith joined in 1959, the fortunes of the H.L. were in decline, with circulation having sunk to an all-time low of 900. The magazine had become ingrown and rife with debt, he recalled. "We were amazed to hear that other college humor magazines divided up their profits among the staff. We paid dues." The dues mostly went toward the formal dinners, with publication costs funded solely from magazine sales. The malaise lifted in the early 60s when the organization was revitalized by a remarkably energetic intake of members that put out an unprecedented 9 issues a year. With this newfound energy came a revival of the magazine parodies, triggered by a young staffer at Mademoiselle, a fashion and lifestyle magazine for young women, who in 1961 suggested to its August editor-in-chief, Betsy T. Blackwell, that it might be a good idea to give the magazine's traditionally low-circulation July issue the Lampoon treatment. Not only did Blackwell agree, she offered the amazed Lampoon editors an honorarium. Far from feeling constrained by producing the Mademoiselle parody alongside the magazine's ladylike staff, the H.L. pranksters really enjoyed them, Frith said. "What a bunch of eccentrics." He remembered particularly Blackwell.